Turf is a book that Jonathan Ross and I created. We came up with it about a little over a year ago, and Jonathan had a few different ideas and approached me with these ideas, and one of them was Prohibition, New York, and we've all seen those movies where they're smuggling whiskey in the barrels and all this stuff, but it was the visual idea of actually, what if there was blood in the barrels, and then mixing the genres of, we're both big fans of crime films and period stuff, and I like to draw that stuff, I like to do the research, and the other part of it was we love horror stuff and we love sci-fi stuff, so this was kind of mixing all three genres together into stuff that we wanted to write and draw. So Turf has basically this vampire family and all the different kind of typical mob families of the late 1920s fighting over turf, but then we have the alien spaceship crash and they get involved.
I do recall reading an article, an interview in regards to how you went about doing research for the time period piece. So what did you do? Can you extrapolate on that a little bit and go into detail about how you did some research for the time period?
Yeah, a lot of the research, nowadays, luckily with the internet and stuff, you can do so much research, but that and going to the library in Chapel Hill and getting books, and then going to New York, and I have friends that are historians, and we go, and basically we went, originally the story was going to be 1925 until we did more research, and I realized, okay, I can't draw that building, can't draw that building, and then we tweaked it to 1929, so that, actually in 28 they started building the Chrysler building, and now throughout our story you see it being built, so stuff that you can put it into the real world context, and then stuff like as goofy as vampires and aliens can actually have a bit of realism and actually be scary. And
how important was it for that authenticity, and how much room do you give yourself to be a little more free with your creations and the artwork, and did that in fact change the style of how you went about approaching when you're using your brushstroke on this particular book?
I think before I drew it, I saw the book more simple in my head, like maybe not quite as much going on in each panel, but there's so much story and there's a lot of characters and there's a lot that you have to establish, so that sort of dictates the approach as far as the medium and how I lay it out. But then there's stuff, even something as simple as there's no bleeds in the book, it's all contained, so it feels like an old-fashioned, just straightforward, traditional comic book. There's not a lot of, even when I'm coloring it, I'm trying to minimize any sort of, modern effects, things like that. I want it to have a very timeless feel.
And which tools do you use to try and achieve that feel?
Mostly I decided to draw this all with a brush, mostly some pens, all on the board, and my stuff's always lettered on the board with John Workman, and then and just scan it and color in Photoshop. But like the last comic I did before this was a Prince of Persia book that's coming out, and that one I drew all on the Cintiq tablet in Photoshop. But that's like a property that's very fantasy, and it's also related to a video game, and it has a lot of effects and all this stuff that kind of makes sense for that book. So it depends what it is. But with Turf, it's very influenced by like Marvel comics of the 1960s, and stuff that was like Will Eisner and Hergé and all these guys that are just sort of what I think of as classic comics.
And Turf, we can see a preview of that in The Walking Dead. Number 70?
I think 7. I'm not sure.
So
whatever the more recent one is.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a 4 or 5 issue preview there, and there's a preview in Image United, number 0, and then we have the Turf website, which is turfcomic.com, and the Facebook page, the whole deal. So, and then Jonathan and I are always on Twitter, and so everything, it's been really cool. So we're building up to April 7th.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
All right, take it easy.